Thing we're gonna do, we're gonna remove the battery. This is the positive on the left side looking at the car. That's the negative. And then we have this bracket holding it together. The battery post bolts are 10 millimeters. Next, you do these two bolts, 1 and 2. Those are 10 millimeter bolts, and when you retighten them, the torque is 7 foot-pounds. So there's a rubber grommet on the intake cover, and then there's a metal washer that goes between that grommet and the bolt. And it's still tight, so it appears that these screws need done as well. Alright, so this is the air cleaner. It looks like the IAT, intake air temperature sensor, is that one back there, and that's what it looks like. Here's another angle. As I'm looking at it, there's a there's a red cable on the right and a green one on the left. And then there are these clamps, but it doesn't say to touch them. Then there's that hose clamp that we have to undo. It's right in between, right there, with the tiny Phillips head right there. And then there is this bolt right here. And also, I think, let's see if I can get a picture of it. That bolt right there. There we go. And I'm pretty sure this should just pull off, or maybe we can even set it aside. We don't even have to touch that that connection right there. That hose clamp bolt right there, the small one with the Phillips head, it has a 5.5 millimeter hex head. So you undid the bolt that was over there, and that seemed to be like a good idea. And then here there's this recirculation hose. The instructions do not say to remove it, but it looks awful tight. So I'm gonna take some pliers and disconnect that hose. All right, so it's saying to remove that bracket right there from the intake manifold chamber, and that hose right there, as well as, I'm pretty sure, that connector right there, the one at the bottom. And I'm not sure yet if we have to take out the throttle body right there. You are removing, you're disconnecting this harness from this chamber right here. It looks like you can probably leave this bracket on. This one right here was tough to get on. I guess it's not anymore since this one's removed. But, okay, so the one right here slides onto this rail. So in here, the plastic connector is female, and the female has a tab which must be lifted to remove it. Whereas on the other side, it slides in and out. And of course, it only slides out after this part has been disconnected. And I have yet to do it, but it looks like this other connector uses the same logic. The next thing you're going to do is remove that harness in the back. Let me find it. Let's see. Yeah, okay, this looks like the best. There it is. So there's that piece of plastic into that metal, and you're going to slide out the piece of plastic by undoing the tab first. And then once that happens, hopefully you'll be able to slide this part right here out. And it looks like you missed one of the connectors. There's one that goes into the throttle body, and it's this one right here. You can see it right there. And that's how they come out of the harness there. So that little one, I mean the one that's still in the throttle body, that's red and green and yellow. So it's red and yellow and green and yellow wire, I would say. All right, so what you're trying to do is move this and this as an assembly, that throttle body there. So okay, we're gonna have to remove this, which I believe is the brake booster breather or something like that. And then this, either here or here, will have to get disconnected. But I'm hoping that you can leave this on just by disconnecting that bracket there. I know the lighting is bad in there. Let's try it. But anyway, there's a little black plastic bracket in which the rubber hose snaps into. Hey, before you forget, there was a hose clamp right here that you left right here, and I moved it to this screw right here where the airbox goes, so that it doesn't fall off so easily. I think we have most of the hoses and the electrical connectors taken care of. Right now, what I'm trying to do is remove the plugs on each of the 4 coils. That way the cylinder head cover will come off more easily. Oh yeah, and as you're looking at it, this Siemens connector, whatever it is, that should come off as well. And this, once you take out these bolts, hopefully this should be able to turn and move into that area without having to disconnect anymore. Alright, now I'm going to undo these nuts and these bolts, which is a 12 millimeter. And then there's a bracket right there, this bracket that's holding this piece of metal right here. It looks like it's bolted onto the cylinder head, and I think it's gonna have to come out so that the cylinder head cover can come out cleanly. And those last, you already unplugged these 2 connectors here, the cylinders, I think it's 1 and 2, and those other 2 you decided to do after. Let's see, where are they? So there's 1, 2, 3 is right there, and that's 4. But you're gonna do those 3 and 4 after you get done or moving this out of the way, because it's pretty tight. Alright, so I ended up doing the last 2 plug connectors, and they weren't so bad to get out. The trick is to really push down on that little lever before trying to pull it out. The reason I did that is that I thought that this had to go all the way back to clear these bolts, but it looks like they're connected right here. It's a little, the light isn't good, but there's a little piece that this is one piece, but it goes out. These bolts right here, went through these holes and threaded into this piece right here with females for the clips. And then there's another piece down there, which is the one I was mentioning earlier, that holds the other two males. Okay, so you disconnected it here, the intake chamber. It looks to still be attached right here, and I think it's this most likely 10mm bolt, which is right in between the intake chamber and the throttle body. And I'm going to try to take it off and see if that helps me at all. And also, this is the one that holds the bracket for the electrical connectors that go to the coils and whatnot. Alright, that one bolt here in the back did the trick, and it was a 10mm, and it was screwed right in here. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put it right back in there. But yeah, so then this tilts forward and to the right. There are still some hoses that attach the throttle body to the rest of the car, and some connectors, but I think this is enough to, this is enough room to play. And next, I'm going to clean up some of this dirt so that hopefully I don't get too much crud inside the engine. And then I am going to take out this arm right here, which also looks like a 10mm bolt, right here in the back where my middle finger is. Alright, that bracket bolt is a 12mm, and to get the wrench to fit, this is a 1/2-inch drive, and I ran it along the engine like this. If you try it like this, you'll hit this part. And now we're going to undo these bolts for the cylinder head cover. And I located the port to drive the to turn the crankshaft, yeah, so I jacked up the car because I thought I needed to remove the wheel, but it looks like I should have enough clearance to just get at it through it. And from what I read, it's 19mm, but we'll find out. You jacked up this wheel to have a little more room, and you inserted a 19mm socket to turn the crankshaft bolt. That's where it goes in. Let's see. Oh, and then you turned it until the top of the sprocket reads up. Let's see if I can get it to focus. Yeah, it doesn't look like I can. But anyway, the top of the sprockets reads up, and the marks are lined up with the cylinder head. And when this happens, all the valves on the one cylinder are loose and ready to be adjusted. And that's what we'll do next. Alright, so you just finished doing cylinder 1. Most of the valves were a little tight, it appeared. So good thing you're doing this. Next one was going to be cylinder 3, but you went a little too far and you can only turn the engine clockwise. So you skipped 3, and now we are on cylinder 4. So next will come 2, then we'll go back around, and should be 3. Alright, so on to cylinder 4. Oh, and I've been doing the go no go method with this tool, and I find that it's helpful to manually lift these little arms right here to get the feeler gauge underneath. You have done all of cylinder 1, cylinder 4, and the exhaust side of cylinder 2. You're still missing cylinder 3 because you skipped it. And you still need to do the intake on cylinder 2. The 19mm socket is still where it was earlier. And I finally finished the valve adjustment, or so I think. There are 7 bolts holding the valve cover together. It's calling for liquid gasket to apply in one little dot right there, and another little dot right. You can see a little bit of the residue of the gasket there. And then on the manual, the tightening sequence is a little different because it's a different engine, but it goes something like, you start at the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or something to that effect. And it's calling to tighten it in 3 steps using that sequence, finishing with a torque of 7.2 foot-pounds. While I was with the engine apart, I decided to do the spark plugs, as I have much easier access with the intake manifold chamber gone. But a couple of things. So it's 5/8 spark plugs. There's a pretty long cylinder leading into where the bolt mounts, which is nice. That way it's pretty hard to cross thread them. I think these are the original spark plugs. The car has 100,000 miles, and so there's some carbon buildup, but they still look pretty good, and they still did their job when I took them out. Let's see, a couple of things. To get the spark plugs out, use the spark plug socket, but to put them back in, if you use the spark plug socket, be careful not to drive it in too deep, because you're going to have to use an extension, and you might step back the extension when you pull it out, instead of getting the socket off the spark plug. And let's see, torque, it's 13.2 foot-pounds on the spark plugs, and then each of those coils has a 10mm bolt holding it on, and that gets tightened at 7-point-something foot-pounds. Alright, okay, so you're putting the car back together, and you reconnected the 4 coils back to the harness, and you reattached this bracket right here in the back. It's a 12mm bolt. I don't know what the torque spec is, so I tightened it at 10 foot-pounds. Let's see what else. You reconnected this connector right here, and you connected this hose. You still need to do this clamp. Alright, so you reinstalled the intake manifold chamber to the rest of the intake. Let's see, these are 12mm bolts, and they all get torqued at 17 foot-pounds, starting from the middle out in 3 steps. And then on the back of the intake manifold chamber, there's that mount right there. You can see it right there. And that one I finger tightened and, you know, just made sure so it could hold before I attached these two parts. And then I tightened it after I finished with this. Now you're just going around putting things back in place. There was this hose here. That holder right there was disconnected. You reconnected this breather hose right here, and then this connector you mounted back. First you slide that part in, and then you pull this part in there. First time I did that, I had this connector over here, so make sure this is out before you put it in place. And then that's it for now. Alright, so you're reinstalling the airbox, and this rubber part right here was, while the car was taken apart, was on that, on this one right here. But it needed to be inserted into the airbox, and then the clamp will go around around this area right here by the lip. Another note on this gasket right here, it has teeth. Let's see if, there we go. So the plastic part has teeth that that go into the gasket, and there is an orientation. You can see at the bottom right where there's a slightly larger space in between those teeth, and you have to match that with where it does the same thing on the gasket.